Israel's government has approved a sweeping plan to seize all of Gaza, indefinitely occupy its territory, and displace its population southward, advancing what rights groups warn is a military-engineered campaign of ethnic cleansing. That is so crazy. Anyway, all right, we got a lot to talk about. Obviously, Israel announces its plans for final solution in Gaza. It's official. They're doing it, or they say that they're doing it. Israel just struck Yemen. That's not surprising. Israeli officials detail plans to seize all of Gaza and occupy it indefinitely. Nancy Pelosi is pressuring Jordan to take more children from Gaza. Nancy Pelosi, who has long-standing friendship with Abdullah, took matters into her own hands last week and had a blunt conversation with Jordan's ambassador with the U.S., Dina Kawar, about Amman not accepting a sufficient number of sick Gazan children. I mean, okay, that's fine, great. That should happen, okay? That's like Band-Aid. Ridiculous that we don't even have the Band-Aid at this moment, but hello, there is also a much larger problem here, which is, you know, the fact that we have a genocide taking place. Like, why are those children starving? Why are those children suffering? Because of Israel.
There's some breaking news. There's a major development in the Middle East. Israeli officials tell the Associated Press that a new plan has been approved to seize all the territory in Gaza and then occupy it indefinitely. MTS Tayeb has the latest for you from London. MTS, good morning to you.
Gail, good morning. Well, the approval by Israel's cabinet of the plan.
About Three Worlds by Avi Shlaim, the entirety of the first chapter is basically him saying the Iraqis were victims of Zionism and missed their home after they were pushed due to Arab nationalism, but pulled to Israel due to Zionism. He talks about a nostalgia for Baghdad his grandparents had when they were forced to go to Israel. Yeah, also Israel was like pretty fucking ruthless to a lot of the Arab Jews initially. Like, was it Ben Gurion who said that they're like lower than dust or something, like they're desert people? Ashkenazi Jews initially were not very fond of. Ashkenazi Jews weren't very fond of like the Arab Jews initially. Like there was the same dynamic of like Western, unironic Western white supremacist thought internally within Israel as well. This is part of the reason why a lot of the most rabid supporters of the state of Israel are often Arab Jews, like Itamar Ben-Gvir, also from Iraq, Arab Kurdish Jew Itamar Ben-Gvir. I just had Turkish food on your recommendation for the first time the other day. Goddamn, don't add bulgur ekmek baklava. That shit slaps so hard. Yeah, it's fantastic. All right, let's lock in. Let's talk about the serious. Let's talk about the serious subject matter. Remember, a few years ago when people were screaming that Israel would never want to occupy Gaza since they left in 2005? Yeah. No, you don't understand. It's because they October 7, they have to. They're just forced. They had their hands forced.
Dramatic shift in this already brutal and grinding war, and comes as the Israeli military called up tens of thousands of reservist soldiers just this weekend. Now, critics inside Israel, most notably the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, have lashed out at the plan, calling it, and I'm quoting here, a failed strategy, since none of the 59 remaining hostages have been freed since Israel broke a ceasefire with Hamas 6 weeks ago and resumed its bombing campaign. Now, the forum also said the plan to expand military operations in Gaza, again, I'm quoting here, was against the will of over 70% of the people in Israel.
Remember, this is a majority children population. There's a reason why 70% of their 70% of the people that they kill are either children, women, or the elderly, because that's just what the population is. Okay? So after starving them, destroying their cities in its entirety, and starving them for 2 months, now they're going to go in and do a full-blown military occupation. And obviously, this is Nazi stuff. I mean, this is the Holocaust. This is the final solution. They are doing it in broad daylight, and they're doing it within the legal confines that they've created for themselves. Just like the Nazis, what they were doing to the Jews were legal by their own estimations, by their own designs, when they implemented the Nuremberg race laws, right? So it's terrifying. The one thing I will say, where you get these numbers though, what do you think, this is a gotcha? Like what do you mean? I get them from the health ministry and also numerous other NGOs and also the United Nations. Like where do you, anyway. Yeah, they're doing a final solution on Gaza. They're doing a final solution on the Palestinians there. The one aspect that is less covered in this matter, however, is if they even have, the military strength to be able to do this. Do they have the numbers to do this? I know that there is definitely a lot of appetite for people in the war cabinet, for sure, especially the more radical elements within the war cabinet. But I don't know if there is enough manpower at this stage, but I have not checked in. I haven't been looking at the the numbers of or the drama that's happening with forcible conscripts or the reservists not returning to duty. Because at a certain point, they're gonna have a hard time filling the ranks. In order to do a permanent military occupation, you have to fill the ranks. And I don't know if they have enough manpower. I genuinely don't know if they have enough manpower to do so, or if they have enough appetite to do so. Because there's a lot of people who just want to go back to their regular lives. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people who are like, okay, I've done enough child murder. Can I please go back to my marketing job? I miss my family. You know what I mean? The impact of all of that violence will also only be seen in a decade. We haven't even gotten there yet. You know how we have the 22 vets a day number in the United States of America? Some of the heinous shit that the Israeli occupying force has done in Gaza is like an Abu Ghraib every day. So that number is going to be far higher. This is going to have inevitably karmic damage or cosmic damage in the form of karmic justice to Israel for sure. So there is no, you can bomb these buildings over and over again, these hollowed out buildings over and over again. But inevitably, if you want to do a military occupation, you need manpower. If you have manpower, there is going to be resistance against said manpower. There is going to be tunnel warfare, guerrilla warfare. Once again, Hamas has replenished its ranks, right? And then you got the Al-Qassam brigades. You got all of these other militancy formations that are going to inevitably take out soldiers over and over again. And I don't think that Israel has the capacity to keep that operation up with straightforward manpower, just boots on the ground military manpower, without American intervention. So therein lies the question. Does America intervene? Do we see the United States of America actually invade Gaza? Is that what they're going to do? Because I don't think Israel has the capacity. I don't think Israel has the capacity to continue the war. Obviously, cost of Gaza war escalation could top 15.4 billion, threatening Israeli budget stability. You have port shutdowns, obviously. You're right. I'm a 9/11 era vet that didn't even see combat, but I have friends who died in Afghanistan. People like us are anti-American as fuck. But it's not even just that. A lot of the Breaking the Silence guys are unironically people that have actually participated in sieges in Gaza, and then that made them incredibly grossed out to the whole fucking design. And that was their wake-up call. But having said that, we also have the PTSD side of things. This is signaling societal collapse, especially when you consider that the Israeli population numbers are constantly fulfilling itself, filling up the ranks with the Haredi population. They're having 6 to 8 kids. Okay. Those guys don't have to serve in the military, but those guys are also not getting the proper education that Israel wants to show to the Western world, that they are just like France or, just like any other normal Western country. We have arts. We celebrate we celebrate education, we celebrate the arts, we celebrate scientific accomplishments and whatnot. So like if the only people that don't have PTSD that remain in Israel, that's like becoming the next generation of Israel, are all young Haredi Jews who only get a religious education, then like the societal makeup of Israel is going to dramatically change. Do you see what I mean? And you don't get to benefit from a steady flow of Western intervention and Western aid and Western support and an expenditure of Western political capital in defense of your genocide if your country doesn't look Western. I feel like they will inevitably lose their favored client status if they can't keep up an incredibly sophisticated influence peddling operation simultaneously. Did you just replacement theory Israel? No, because it's not replacement theory. It's more so. I mean, it is a little bit like getting mad at idiocracy for having a eugenicist slant. But it's idiocracy. We're experiencing that here in the United States of America as well. But it is kind of like idiocracy where, yeah, the guys that are having a lot of children that allow Israel to no longer have, to allow Israel to not have any sort of like birth rate decline, those guys don't serve. They don't serve. They don't go to the same schools. They don't care about education in the same way. They have very different opinions on like women's position in society. And the more Israel becomes a majority Haredi population, which is, it's not there yet, but the more Israel becomes like a majority Haredi population like that, the less likely it is that it can keep up its sophisticated espionage operations, or even sophisticated influence peddling operations in the West. As an ex-Haredi, I can assure you we receive little to no education. Yeah, it's mostly just like religious education, right? So I mean, it's just they're cooked. They're cooked regardless, if that makes sense. I mean, the West supports Saudi Arabia, and there aren't Western looking in any way, to be honest. If you think that like Saudi Arabia is a weapon to wield against Yemen, okay? As long as it is a part of the defense initiative that defends Israel's interests in the region, as long as it has a shit ton of oil. But Saudi Arabia is not a favored client state in the same way that Israel is. No country is a favored client state in the same way that Israel is. Saudi Arabia is just an important bulwark against Iranian intervention in the region because Iran is outside of our sphere of influence. The double irony here, of course, is that we are trying to Israelify the United States of America. A lot of our politicians look to Israel's fascism and say, we like that. We want that here. We should do more of that, please. Like, there is a truly terrifying number of politicians who I think unironically look to the design of Israeli society and where it has gone over the course of the past couple of decades and has decided this is good. We should do this, but for Christianity, Christian Sharia, you know? Israel is less a client and more the USA's pet, I feel. Yes. I mean, it's not the favored client nation status is just like a designation. It's an official an unofficial designation. Fuck the Yemen dude that pissed off so many people. It is not in the sphere of Western influence. It's in the sphere of Iranian influence. That's it. That's the major issue.
Launch a ballistic missile on Sunday, which hit the perimeter of Israel's main airport. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has promised to respond to the attack, saying Iran would also face consequences from the strike.
Yeah, they have to pull Iran into this. And Iran has demonstrated restraint over and over again. Or some analysts will say Iran uses the Houthis as a way to respond to Israel, as a way to retaliate against Israel. But Iran overall has demonstrated major restraint throughout this process. That much is obviously clear, especially in comparison to fucking what Israel is doing. The only time Israel actually shows restraint is when they're trying to retaliate against Iran, ironically enough. But the reality of the matter is Israel needs to bring Iran into the fold because there are two reasons for that. One, I think this is a part of America's grand design in the region. I think this is definitely a part of America's grand design because Iran, if there were two poles on the planet with two hegemonic powers competing against one another, they're going to need energy, and China needs to get it from Iran if they can't get it from the regular OPEC plus group. And America's number one goal in the next 20 to 10 year timeline is to take this war directly to China. That's part of the reason why they want to pack up the whole Russia-Ukraine stuff. And that's precisely the reason why they are letting Israel go absolute monster mode everywhere in the region, so that they can do this big destabilization and then restabilization with Israeli design, like restabilization where a lot of these areas are under firm Israel security commitments and Israel control, so that they can have some semblance of security and some semblance of stability, rather, for American national interests, and maybe even exert influence, exert pressure over our allies there to cut off the energy supply to China. That is the goal. That's why I also say American foreign policy will swing sometimes wildly, but it's often still directionally in the same. It's always directionally in the same agenda, towards the same agenda, but there are obviously differences in opinion along the way. Oftentimes it's the Republicans that push it even further and further right, more to more insane places, and then the Democrats don't do anything to pull it back because they also are in line with the same agenda. So is Pallywood just a modern day Nazi propaganda, or is that a little too far? No, it's not far. I look, it's up to you guys. You need to be very well equipped when you're talking about Israel-Palestine related things in order not to come across like you're anti-Semitic, because a lot of the language, even on accident, can come across like that. And I perfectly understand that, which is why I wouldn't recommend to the average person to make this comparison, because most people still at this stage will be like, whoa, I don't know about that. That's crazy. But I do not shy away from making the comparison of Israel and Nazi Germany, because I think we have definitely reached that level. But you know, the less incisive language you can use is just to say it's fascist, because it is fascist, just like the Nazis. It is exterminationist. It is built on supremacist ideology, just like the Nazis were. But you know, I don't think it's in any way, shape, or form inappropriate to make this comparison. Like, as a Jewish person, I always compare Israel to the Nazis. Yeah. NATO officials came to Japan recently to beg us to make more weapons and build up the SDF, supposedly for Russia, but I think it's the goal of fighting China too. No, it's definitely the goal of fighting China.
Allahu Akbar.
This is what last night's Israeli airstrikes left in Gaza to be buried the morning after. The remains of a child so small they could almost be held in one hand. Now dead before they had lived.
We hope that everyone will stand with us to stop this bloodshed and stop this extermination. We are people who love life. We are people who hope that the war will stop and that we will live in peace, security and safety.
This is the human cost of an offensive that is set to intensify if Israel carries out its new plan to seize more of the Strip. The Israeli military already controls around half of Gaza, as well as corridors dividing the region.
Yeah.
Government officials have reportedly said the new offensive will now capture the entire territory. This would mean pushing the population back south again.
This is what we will do. We will move the population for its own protection.
The Israeli Prime Minister suggested the military would not retreat from...
Bro, am I crazy, or does he look more like Hitler every day? I don't know what is going on here, but like with the exception, obviously, because he's clean cut, he doesn't do the mustache shit, but like his hair, like I swear to God, he's like Hitlerifying in front of our eyes. I think it's the haircut. Like he straight up looks like Hitler would look like if he just shaved his fucking dumbass mustache. You know what I mean? Like, is he just like what's going on there? Is he trying to be like, haha, what are you gonna do about it? That's me. Tolstoy could never imagine particles to this degree. No, it's not Tolstoy, it's Trotsky. Tolstoy. It was Trotsky who said Hitler particles. What evil does to a motherfucker? I mean, yeah. War and Peace by Leon Trotsky. I mean, that dude loved to write too, but anyway.
From areas they raid. The plan would also impact the distribution of aid under conditions expected to be set by the Israeli military.
This would violate the humanitarian principles of neutrality, impartiality, and independence, and could also put people at risk by, including aid workers, by having them around these militarized zones.
And right now, agencies say the Strip is being starved by Israel's blockade. The import of food and medicine has been paused. Those in need of treatment have watched themselves wither right before the world, desperate for intervention. This is the voice from a health NGO based inside Gaza, speaking to Channel 4 News.
We feel utterly helpless, and we are afraid, maybe in weeks or less than that we will have nothing to offer to people, and that's why we urge the international community to help us immediately. Just let Gaza live.
This is Israel ahead of President Trump's visit next week. Although some believe Israel's government is attempting to place pressure on Hamas, these families and their allies fear for the impact on their loved ones. 59 taken hostage in Israel by Hamas remain in Gaza, and artillery does not ask for ID.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. It blows my mind what is going on, because like if there were no hostages right now in Gaza, I think the dynamic would look very different. Like I think that there wouldn't even be any protests. Like I know that there are people in Israel, like I think over time standing together, like a lot of the liberal Zionists that are even in movements like Standing Together either went full tilt Kahanist or went in the opposite direction and became more firm in their conviction against like Israel's genocide. But their numbers are nothing in comparison to the broader Israeli society. Like this is what I have seen from my own personal experiences, from what I've seen in the Western world, but what I've seen also in Israel as well. And I'm sure some of the Israeli HasanAbi heads could confirm or deny this. I don't know. But like there, after October 7, a lot of the liberal Zionists that were at the peak of like the Israeli liberal coalition that was like, oh, let's do peace. Let's do a two-state solution. Let's do let's hold hands with the Palestinians and sing Kumbaya, but also like, let's, people that have protested, people that have demonstrated over and over again, not talking about the anti-Zionists, okay? But people that have protested and demonstrated, which is one of the more popular, one of the larger movements basically in Israel. A lot of those guys I was checking in were going crazy. They were baying for blood, okay? They were just going wild, right? And then it's like over time, I think as the depravity of the military operations became clear for some got way more radicalized in the opposite direction, and others and others became, I think, more committed to anti-Zionism than they ever did before. But those numbers are tiny still. They're marginal. So without hostages, because like the mass movements that happen in Israel, the largest category of like anti-government protests that are coming out are coming from hostage families and their friends and people that want a ceasefire specifically to take out the hostages. Those people have been polled in the past as well. And when they actually get polled, they still say like, no, just keep the war going after, but just like get our hostages out. And Benjamin Netanyahu, on the other hand, will not commit to even doing that, which is why a lot of people are very frustrated. There's the reason why in Israel, in Israeli media, especially with the last ceasefire was taking place, there were family members of Israeli hostages that were writing letters to Benjamin Netanyahu being like, you are the reason why this fucking deal is not taking place, which was correct. You are bringing up idiotic additional spoilers into the ceasefire negotiation, like not removing military presence from the Philadelphia corridor, the Rafah border crossing with Egypt, right? Like all of this stuff that they added on to the deal over and over again was specifically done so that Netanyahu could always say, oh, I don't want to do this. I don't want to actually do a ceasefire. And I think, I don't know what the dynamic would look like. Israel's made peace deals with Palestine 5 times up until October 7th. Yeah, those aren't real peace deals, brother. What are we talking about? This is like pre-October 7 Hasbara is where we're at now. What do you mean? Like, what's the logical conclusion of this argument that you're trying to present here? That like they did peace deals with Palestine and Palestinians couldn't keep up their end on those peace deals, so they must be ethnically cleansed. Is that your argument? Can you say your conclusion? Yeah, see? Exactly, because Palestine didn't want peace. Remember, chatters, the dynamic is always the same, okay? Here's what happens. There's a siege that takes place. They wipe out like 100 to 1,000 people. They blow up a bunch of buildings. Then they fuck off, Israel does, okay? And then there is a treaty. There's a ceasefire treaty. Israel then continues doing what it's doing in the West Bank, which is, of course, ruining the lives of the Palestinians under this illegal occupation, where they keep harming them, especially during Ramadan, where they'll actively go out of their way to disrupt travel to the mosque, disrupt the lives of Palestinians that are literally engaging in the act of just going to the Al-Aqsa Mosque and praying. And that provocation is always like there before that provocation happens, knowing full well that provocation is going to happen, okay? Knowing full well that provocation is going to happen, Hamas will release a statement. They will say, don't do this, okay? Do not do this. And then Israel will do it anyway, and then Hamas will turn around and fucking lob a couple rockets that immediately get intercepted by Iron Dome. Israel will use that as an opportunity to do another siege. This is what this man is talking about when he says Hamas always disrupts peace negotiations or whatever. It's not true. Okay? This guy woke up thinking it's October 8th, giving us all the talking points. No, he woke up thinking it's October 6th, ironically enough. Also, it is pretty funny to say this because if this kind of rhetoric was incredibly effective in the Western world for years, Palestinians were no partner in peace, they said, right? No, I just see one side hating the other, and the other having to defend itself. Yeah, that is what's going on. That is actually what's going on. One side is defending itself, and that side is the Palestinians. And the side that's hating them is Israel. So you're actually not wrong. You've flipped the dynamic and it's on its head because you have sympathies for Israel. I get it. Like, I know where this comes from. You're wrong, but I understand why you're wrong. Anyway, the thing I wanted to mention here is more so about propaganda and how it works. Okay. Pre-October 7, if you tried to describe how disruptive Israel was in these numerous ceasefire negotiations where they never actually gave a fair deal and they never actually wanted to implement any sort of fair deal whatsoever, okay? If you were to describe that to people, they would not understand it. They'd be like, what do you mean? Bill Clinton even said that it was, Palestinians that were just no partner in peace. But now every single person in this community at least, has seen the exact ways in which the depraved morally repugnant American administration lies at the behest of Israel and how Israel behaves throughout the ceasefire negotiation process. So now you know, because you saw it over the course of the past year and a half. You saw exactly how Israel operates in these negotiations, and you saw exactly how the American government runs cover for Israel throughout these ceasefire negotiations. So looking at what has unfolded over the last year and a half will give you a better understanding of the reasons as to why previous ceasefire negotiations or any sort of pathway towards peace was completely cast aside by the responsible party, Israel. Do you understand? This is also why it's like a lot of the old Hasbara doesn't work. A lot of the old Hasbara doesn't work anymore. And it's not just because people can see directly what Israel is doing, but a lot of the old Hasbara doesn't work anymore because people have just become more aware. Like, people have become more aware of the way that Israel has operated throughout the past year and a half. And that completely eviscerates all of the carefully calculated, ahistorical ways in which this process has been taught to those who even care to learn about it in America. Hasan, I'm scared. You figured it out and you're loud about it. I'm scared for your safety. No, but the irony is, this is what I've been saying for years. This isn't new. It's just a lot of people have only recently figured it out. That's it. That's it. I've heard Israel is faking AI voice notes in Syria to put Druze against the Syrian government. I don't know about that. Is Israel's justification for their plan to seize Gaza that it's necessary to save the hostages? No. Ironically enough, they've completely given up on even entertaining that idea. They've given up on even doing propaganda in that direction. They completely dropped it. They openly said, last week, Benjamin Netanyahu came out and said, hostages are secondary to our much larger, much more consequential plan of complete extermination of Hamas. Hostage negotiations are a hurdle. And he actually said it literally a day after Ethan and Sam argued against one another. After Ethan was like, oh, well, if Hamas released all the hostages, then, Israel would stop. Yeah. Ethan is about to go live. I'm a Fallen fan. I can't believe Ethan actually won the debate against Sam Cedar and you. Is shocking. It's not shocking. Thank you, tiny person. It is shocking. Many things are shocking to you, I think, if you feel that way. Like, oh my God, why is there a big ball in the sky that comes out every morning? That is scary. Is that fire? What is fire? Shocking. Yeah. I mean, this basically came out like a day after Sam and Ethan had that conversation. Netanyahu says destroying Hamas more important than free hostages, which, again, if you were paying any attention to the dynamic at all, you would have recognized that. You would have recognized that months ago. We are finally going to conquer Gaza. We are no longer afraid of the word occupation, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich told a pro-settler conference in an online discussion. Israel may seize all of Gaza in expanded operation, officials say. Summary. Door open for ceasefire talks as Trump heads to the region. Military will hold territories it seizes, Israeli officials say. Blockade remains on aid for now. Tens of thousands of reservists will be called up. Humanitarian agencies condemn Israel's new aid plans. See, there's also an incredibly nefarious side of this, which is that they are going to do something that is totally illegal that they wanted to do in the past as well under the Biden administration. Apparently, according to reporting that I read on it, at least, even the Biden administration was like, you can't do that. They want to distribute aid with the military. They want to control who gets aid in the Gaza Strip. That in and of itself is insane. I mean, this is literally Russia shit, okay? This is what the American government was like yelling to Russia about over and over again. I mean, it's not any, like, even the Russian annexation occupation was a bloody affair. It was incredibly deadly, but like at no point is there not regular commerce happening, right? No, it's not even American shit. No, it's not even American shit. This is worse. I'm telling you, this is worse than Russia shit. This is worse than America shit. This is straight up like picking and choosing who gets to eat food. Like, it's absolutely worse than Russia shit. It is absolutely worse than America shit. This is stuff that, I mean, it's Nazi shit. Yeah, Israel's government here. Israel's government has approved a sweeping plan to seize all of Gaza, indefinitely occupy its territory, and displace its population southward, advancing what rights groups warn is a military-engineered campaign of ethnic cleansing, military conquest, indefinite control. The Security Cabinet unanimously backed the plan by Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir to capture the Strip and hold the territories, escalate attacks, and block Hamas from accessing humanitarian aid. The plan also includes moving the Gazan population to population south for its defense and intensifying bombing campaigns. There's no timeline for withdrawal. I also want to mention something. I didn't really cover this as much. I didn't really cover this aspect as much, but like the Israeli military, by way of infiltration and sabotage, has armed criminal elements within the Gaza Strip. Okay? They've given him like NATO weapons in the Gaza Strip to go and run rampant on the aid. Hamas, as of, I believe, last night, actually publicly executed numerous criminal gang members and implemented a 9 p.m. curfew because the Israel-backed gangs would cause chaos in an effort to stop aid distribution, what remains of the aid that was being distributed. This, of course, on top of blowing up food refinery facility, like grain silos, like blowing up the last areas where there is any food whatsoever. 2 months of complete blockade on aid entering the Gaza Strip. The trucks full of aid are just sitting on the border. They are not letting them enter the Strip. How do you know the gangs are Israel backed? Oh, great question. The reason why I know the gangs are Israel backed is because obviously there's going to be criminal elements regardless, but according to the reporting from the remaining Palestinian journalists that are still alive at this point, every single time there was gang activity, there would be drones around, and they never actually shot at the at the dudes with guns in broad daylight. So tell me, the very same Israel that literally has implemented killing fields, the very same Israel that shoots at humanitarian aid workers that are engaging in the process of deconfliction with the Israeli Defense Force, the very same Israel that has killed World Central Kitchen aid workers, the very same Israel that has killed 15 medical workers from the Palestinian Red Crescent, that Israel sees dudes running around with guns and does not kill them. What does that mean? There's drones all around that offer protective cover. Yeah, Israel wants local clans to run Gaza after the war, but the candidates are refusing. Jerusalem is trying to forge a path to non-Hamas governance, but hope of working with Strip's powerful families dampen the fears of retribution as terror groups still dominant. We are not collaborators. Israel should stop these games. Reuters, the plan for post-war Gaza that Israel has pitched to U.S. allies is to run the Strip in cooperation with powerful local families. But there's a problem. In a place where Hamas still wields ruthless influence, none want to be seen as talking to the enemy. Jerusalem is under pressure from Washington to wind down its military offensive nearly 9 months after October 7 Hamas massacre inside Israel, but does not want the Palestinian terror group to remain in charge after the fighting ends. Israeli officials have therefore been trying to plot a path ahead for the day after the fighting stops. This is all the way back from the 2nd of July, 2024, by the way. Yeah, this is the other side of the story. Yes, new armed gangs are looting food warehouses across Gaza, and Israeli drones are reportedly targeting the police and volunteers trying to stop them. Multiple sources, including eyewitnesses and journalists, say the gangs are backed by Israel. Here's what's being reported. Tarek Azam, Gaza correspondent for Al Jazeera English, reports local gangs reportedly backed by Israel are looting what remains of Gaza's food warehouses. Israeli forces, he says, have struck police officers who were trying to stop the thefts. One of the first-hand accounts comes from a volunteer at a community kitchen in western Gaza. He says armed gangs attacked their facility. Attacked their facility twice in one day. The second time, they fired live rounds and broke into a food store serving 1,500 plus families. Now, what's really interesting about this, once again, is that Israel says Hamas is doing this, except Hamas has punished the criminal gangs that have done this. They executed a bunch of them and then implemented a curfew as of last night, 9 p.m. curfew in the Gaza Strip as of last night. If you recall, there was a lot of chaos at the point of humanitarian aid being delivered into the Gaza Strip at numerous occasions, okay? And I remember covering the story where there was the time when they shot at the aid delivery, and then the aid delivery trucks like had to get out of the way, like they just there was a stampede, and they did the flower truck massacre, if you remember. And I believe right after the flower truck massacre, the Gazan police force, the civil, like the civil part of the civil governance division, the civilian population, okay, not like Hamas's militant wing, not the Al-Qassam brigades or anything like that. The Gazan police force actually came in and said, we are going to implement a process here. So they literally they designed a way for the humanitarian aid to be distributed in a organized manner. The next day, Israel killed the police chief. The next day, they went in. There was a single file line. Everyone was getting their fucking aid and getting out. The next day, Israel killed the police chief and then said he was Hamas. The next day. Why would they do that? They did that because they want this chaos to exist. They do that because they want there to be a constant sense of pressure and violence and chaos and to never stop that. No order, none of that whatsoever. This is part of the reason why I say October 7 aside, okay, the atrocities that took place on October 7 aside, which were conducted by a collaborative effort on all the Palestinian factions, the entirety of the Palestinian militant resistance, okay? After October 7, since Israel's genocide started, or at least accelerated, if you want to call it that, everything that Hamas has done in that time frame has been legally permissible, with the exception of maintaining hostages. That's it. Brother, the things you're saying is really sad and disgusting, man. What the fuck? This is disgusting. Are you saying like what Israel is doing is disgusting? Like hearing about it makes you sad? Is that what you mean? Or are you saying that like the statements that I'm making are disgusting because they're untrue or something? Because this is, yes, that is correct, Israel. Oh no, he's saying like it's making me sad because what Israel is doing is disgusting. Okay, got it. Hasan, can you tell me where I can do research on this stuff independently and get the same info as you? I think you can. I mean, Drop Site News is very good. They're incredible on their reporting. Al Jazeera has fantastic reporting on this stuff. Every now and then, I mean, look at the news sources that I look at. Like I when I'm covering this stuff, when I'm covering every news story, whether domestic or foreign, I look at virtually every single type of news outlet that's out there, all the way from far right news outlets to liberal Zionist newspapers, all the way to anti-Zionist publications, and you know, places like Democracy Now, places like Drop Site that do fantastic investigative reporting that work with journalists on the ground. But yeah, the humanitarian aid plan that they're presenting as a humanitarian aid plan is literally to hire mercenaries tied to Israeli leaders, not aid groups. Israel wants to create de facto internment zones. Israel wants to set it up in Rafah, a city it already destroyed and depopulated. It's not real humanitarian aid. It is just simply another mechanism of ethnic cleansing. Investigative journalist Mohammed El Zanin has documented 3 Israeli drones in a single hour on patrols attempting to stop the looting at El Tawra and Al Wahda streets in Gaza City. Those targeted, he reports, were community volunteers and local police. So these guys, in their endless resilience, Palestinians in their endless resilience, are trying to do their very best to maintain some kind of civil order within a fucking ghettoized part of within an open air concentration camp that is currently being bombed by its belligerent occupier, and in that process they're literally still trying to kill the people that are trying to create some semblance of order so that less people die from famine. Dropsite interviews the Hamas official not that long ago. So does that make them terrorist supporters too? Clown shit. No, don't listen to people that say stuff like that. Okay. When people hit the "you're a terrorist, you support terrorism, we must deplatform you," they're just trying to shut you up. Okay. Or specifically me. They're trying to shut me up because they're worried that people are recognizing the events that are unfolding. Okay? That's it. They don't want to actually tackle the conversation. They don't want to actually have a hard to deal with conversation. They just want to say, you are dangerous. You're a dangerous person. You're a terrorist. Stop talking. My brother's an Asman watcher and he's fallen for the Hasan as a terrorist supporter BS. We argued about that this morning. They do not want to have a nuanced discussion. They do not want to have a conversation. They do not want to talk about like any kind of militant resistance against a nation state that is doing apartheid. Hasan is the king of Darvo. I don't even know what Darvo means. It's like something that narcissistic boyfriends do, right? Isn't that what it is? Yes. My coverage on this issue, my coverage on this stuff is actually just like your fucking shitty ex-boyfriend. You're right. Thank you. This Hasan stream could be a disaster for Twitch and Amazon. One thing I haven't seen many people yet, this controversy around Hasan's stream title and content could create real problems for Twitch and by extension Amazon. Yes, dude. This is going to be really controversial for Amazon, which is literally me covering a fucking anti-Semitic incident. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for bringing accountability. Hasan should really stop covering anti-Semitism. My Hebrew school was being anti-Semitic when they taught me about the Nazis and the swastikas. Yeah. God damn, dude. Holy shit.